Okay, thank you for being here. Happy Thursday. We made it through the week. Um, I've given back the Unit 2 package that I have. If I don't have it, then please give it to me. Just anytime before you leave.
What is the clock mean?
The clock is a sticker, and sticker means great job.
Oh.
I got a pack of stickers that was, I think I got this pack of stickers at Michael's because I thought it looks pretty, but it's like also, some of them have like Chinese characters because it was like a learn Chinese sticker book, but I thought the stickers looked cute. So that's my explanation for that. But sticker equals thumbs up. And you should also have points in Canvas. If you don't have points in Canvas, then I should get that. Just to remind you, homework 2 has been assigned and that's due next Thursday. So you've got a week to get that done. Just to remind you, let's talk about that later, please. Thank you. Hopefully we'll get to lab. What number are we on? 3 today. But just to remind you that homework 2 is assigned, and so one game is easy, rock, paper, scissors. That's just using the scanner to get information, and then using random, which you hopefully played around with in the first homework, to just flip a coin or flip a 3-sided coin and choose who gets to win. And then you get to choose a harder option and come up with something and wow me, impress me, have fun. If you need ideas for how to start that, come talk with me. Any questions on the homework? Cool. Get started on it. My advice for pretty much anything programming is start early, because then you will have problems early and you can solve them early so that you can run into more problems later, because that's how it works. But if you run into problems late, then it's hard. Okay, that's homework 2. The plan is we're gonna go through File IO, which we started at the end of the previous class where we downloaded the Secret Garden. I've got some activities for the Secret Garden. I've got some activities for the Magna Carta, which I'm just realizing now I also forgot to download. So we'll do that together. And then once we're done with those, we'll start Lab 3 and the rest of class. We'll have groups and then you'll work on it out of class. Tentatively, depending on how much time we end up having to work with it, it'll either be due next Tuesday or next Thursday. So that depends, and I'll let you know. Any questions before we get started? Great. Let's do Secret Garden. Also, let me pull up the slides. Okay, so we were talking about scanners, where scanners are something that take in some input stream and it splits it up into tokens of some sort, and then we can do something with those. So the way we set up a scanner, we've got the reference type name, capital S scanner, and then we give it a variable name. So for me, I've called it in, you can call it whatever you want. Then we've got our keyword that we use with reference variables, new, and then scanner, and then we call the scanner constructor. And in there we give, here's where I want the input to come from. So we've had it come from system.in. It doesn't just have to be system.in. We can also have it go through a string. Like we can give it a string and then just process through that. That's fine. We could also do that. We looked at how like .next will, if this is our original like queue of the scanner, .next takes the first thing up, removes it, and returns it. And so .next is the action of consuming that next token. So we saw this in, where did we put it? Our console IO test, where we've got, so we started with main, where it's just give me your name, and it saves, we call string name equals in .next, and it just saves it as a string and then reports it, prints it back. We looked at what next line does, where it goes until the next new line character, and it grabs all of that. We talked about the difference between next line and has next line, where has next line is just yes or no, and it doesn't change. So like for this, has next would just return true because there's something next that's available. Next is the thing that actually takes it and removes it. And we can, if we work with just .next, we can do other things like next Boolean, next int, and other data types. Yeah.
What's like an example of when you would need to use has next line?
Has next line, we're going to see that. We're going to see that in file IO. Yeah. Because that makes sense, because like if we've got something with multiple lines, like the secret garden or some long file, as we go through, we want to be sure that we're not like going over. And so as long as there is a next line, we're going to do something with it. Yeah. Okay, so then let me see. Yeah, so there's different like next line, next Boolean, double and int, and so on. And we can append or prepend has to all of these. So has next line, has next Boolean, etc. Then we talked about exceptions. So exceptions are used because we're dealing with input. There's always a chance that we could get something that we didn't intend, that we got something that either like if we ask for a Boolean, then we're given something that's not a Boolean, and then we have to figure out what to do with it. So exceptions are what we use to handle when these things go wrong. So the structure looks like we've got the word try and then curly brackets, and this is where the risky code goes. And then we've got the word catch, and then in parentheses, the name of the exception. And then inside the catch block, we do something to handle the exception. So we could print the error and then move on, or we looked at a case where, so like if we just have system.error.print, then it'll do that and then keep going. If we want to crash the program, then we say throw. So we're, I also like how it's like catch and throw. I think that's fun. But throw is going to stop the program and print, here's the error. I'm not going any further. If we do throw, then we need to still be able to close the resources that we open. So we open the scanner, then we have to close it. And so we do that inside a finally block. If we didn't have throw, then we would need it later on in the program. So just make sure that at whatever branch you choose, you have to close the resources. That's that. Here's some exceptions. Talked about that. And then we looked at 3 activities. So one of them was with if else, so not using try catch, which I do not recommend, but it technically does work. Then we looked at try doing the same thing, but just with try catch. So the functionality is the same, and we just are better at error handling. Then we looked at getting the 2 ints, but restricting like if we had gotten any other additional data, then we cut the user off and say, no, only 2 ints. All right, then we started to get into file reading. So we downloaded the Secret Garden, which I believe is on Canvas. And what we did is we've got, so inside our project, but outside our source folder, we've got a data folder. And this data folder, this is where I put the secretgarden.txt. And so I can open that up, and right now I'm all the way at the bottom of the file, but the Secret Garden is here. And so we're going to process this file. So we ended up with read end lines, which is a method that takes in a file name. So we're going to test it with the Secret Garden. Then later we'll have the Magna Carta, something else to play around with. And it's going to take in n, an integer, which is just read the first however many lines. And so the way we go through a file, as instead of the console, is we need an object that knows how to handle a file, and that's a file reader. If you go on the internet, there may be other ways to get here, and those are equally fine. File reader is just what I'll show you, but if you find something else that does the same thing, great. So file reader, file name, that takes care of opening and feeding all that information to the scanner, which is what we work with. So I've called it file in. And then we've got a simple while loop where we start, if we start at 0, we can. If we start at 1, then we just say, while count is less than n, go through the file, grab the next line, and just feed it to print, and then increment the count. So down here in main, for me on Mac, this works where I have the data folder / secretgarden.txt. If you're on Windows, there's a chance this works, but you may also need to do data, and then 2 backslashes, then secretgarden.txt. That's just the thing about Windows, of the slashes go a different way. And the reason you need 2 of them is because \s is a character. Or yeah, so if we had just had 1 \s is a character in and of itself. And so if we give it 2, then it's like, no, for real, it's a backslash. Okay. So that's where we left off. Any questions before we move forward? Awesome, let's do it. So this prints the first 35 lines of Project Gutenberg, which it doesn't actually get. Let's go all the way up to the top. So let's see, where does it actually start? So 77 starts the contents, and then 117 starts chapter 1. I just got there by double clicking on this in case you wanted to know. So double clicking on that brings everything back.
Secret Garden.
Yes. Okay, so how do I change it to print line? So for the Secret Garden, I want to start at line 117. I want to go maybe 35 lines after that. How do I do that? How do I change the code that I already wrote? Talk with your neighbor for a second. How can we modify this? So the code I currently have starts at line 1 and goes until line 35, but I want to print the first 35 lines of the actual book. That's the question. Yeah.
Change the input out to line 17.
Mm-hmm. Like that?
Well, when it says like file and equals new scanner and we follow the file name,
Yes.
is the ink count one, is that like? Okay, never mind. I know it's something else.
Okay. Discuss it with your neighbor. What do you think? What doesn't work?
Why maybe like pull up the super guiding this in there and see like, oh, what line does it actually start? Like thing that you want to like look at instead of like the prologue type stuff. Starts.
Okay.
So I guess it
I mean,
starts.
that's allowed. I want to know, how do you modify?
112, like it has the
You change
the title and then choose the amount like the lines that you want after 112.
Okay, so I know Marcus has got the solution that I was thinking of. What are you guys thinking?
Well, I was thinking like, to like, well, to like go to check out the Secret Garden TXT file. And then from there, like, look at like, oh, like, maybe you want to start on, well, okay, like, maybe you want to start on like 112, because that has the title. And then from there, you can like
Mm-hmm.
look at the,
So you're thinking of like searching for the first instance of the title,
yeah, I guess so, and then the subsequent. Like
however many lines.
afterwards.
Okay. I think that may be, I don't know the word, but this may also trigger, like, this is the Secret Garden.
All right, then.
This
I
is
guess- I
also
guess
the
we
Secret
could just
Garden.
Start at like chapter 1. And
Yeah.
Then afterwards.
Yeah, so you're talking about like searching for a specific string that gets us going,
I
and
guess
then
so, yeah.
the X number of lines after that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a strategy. Other strategies that you thought of? Did you guys talk about anything?
So we wanted to start on the 35 line? Or you're saying that's what?
So I want, so I want N to be pretty much the same, but I want to start at a different line. I don't want to start at line 1.
Yeah, we thought that changing the starting counter,
Yeah.
changed the, like, it would start reading the file at line 35.
Mm-hmm. So if we start at like 117, and then we still want to do 35.
I'll just read.
Then that gives me nothing.
Hmm.
Why does it give me nothing?
It's no longer
And
plus and.
Yeah. So, yeah, so the while loop doesn't activate. Okay, Marcus, tell me what you were thinking of. How do you fix this problem? If you would like to share. Okay, so the solution that I was thinking of is we can add a parameter. So we can add a parameter for like, here's the number that we want to start at. And then we can count it. I guess we would want to count it at 1. Wait. If we want to print 35 lines, and we go until just before n, do we want to start counting at 1 or do we want to start counting at 0? If I want to print 3 lines and I give you n of 3, then if I start at 1, it would give me 1, 2. So I want to start at 0. Did you have?
Well, I'm a little confused, so if you want n to be 3, but you start at 0.
So so n equals 3. I
Yeah.
want to print 3 lines.
Yeah.
The question is, where do I start count?
Well, if you start at 0, wouldn't it give you 0, 1, 2, 3? So wouldn't that be 4?
yeah, tiny.
Not currently if based on the while loop condition.
Okay.
Let's test it. Okay. We're gonna test this. But I need to add start first. Okay, so counting is just counting how many lines have we printed so far. It doesn't care about where we are in the file. So
And you got
how do I get to, what are you thinking?
I think that time to plus James to n plus the start. And then, put the system dot out dot put element file in dot next line into an if statement of if counter is more than start.
Am I missing something?
You can close the if statement after that.
Right here?
No, no, not there. Okay, put the ending curly brace at the end of the print line. After the semicolon. Yeah,
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. We don't care where the curly brackets go.
and then put it, and then make an else statement. And in that else statement, this is one line of code, file in .next line. That's it.
So what is this doing? What's the else doing?
The else is just addressing the it's just moving to the next line without printing it.
Right, so without doing anything. So the idea where we have to start somewhere, but, and we've said, here's where I want you to start actually printing. We've got to get there somehow. And that's what this is doing, where we go through and it's consuming it, but we're not like printing it or we're not saving it anywhere. So it just gets thrown away. So the first 117 lines just get thrown away. Do we need anything else?
The part where you actually like call the read end lines function in the
Mhm.
main in the
Oh, right,
in that you gotta have the
117. Okay. All right, let's test it. Wait, there's currently an error. Where's the error? I think I fixed it. Yay! We did it. So it starts at okay, so maybe our math is a bit off. It didn't start exactly at line 117. It started at line 119. I'm not exactly sure why. We started count at 0. Let's try what, see. That gets the line before that. Okay, so count starts at 0. N plus start is 117 plus 35, which is, I'm so bad at mental math when I'm standing up here. $122 plus 30 is 152. So I think 152 is where we want to stop. Or like we're going to stop at line 151. And so if count is greater than start, this is where it is. This is where it is. So we wanted to print line 117. But count is not greater than start. You see?
right. Why don't we just make it greater than or equal to?
Yeah, so let's. Okay, that prints
Yeah,
118. Number 1. Yeah. Okay, so why does that work? I think this might be the culprit where we're it's a question of where we start and when the new line gets consumed.
I think you could also just change 35 to 36 so that it doesn't. Unless. Look at the end of the console. Yeah, so
I will not let you. Right, so I think this is also a question of this. So if we add an equal here, I think that'll give us an extra line. So chapter 1 is on line 117. And then we wanted it to go to line 152. Which if we do that, including 152, that's what it gives us. Great. All right, so this is us printing through lines of the file. Let's say, let's do another activity. I'm going to add another method here. So this is a method to print the line numbers of a file. So like we'll start at 1 and then go on for, I don't know, maybe we have int n again. Okay, so I'm gonna, we're doing something really similar to read end lines. I think I have a slightly simpler version in the notes, so we're gonna see another way, another equivalent way of doing this. So the idea here is I want to print the first n lines of a file, and I want to also print like the line numbers right before that. Just the number, colon, space. Fairly simple. Okay, so I've got to initialize the scanner. So declare file in, and then initialize it to null. And then I set it up similarly to what I did before, where I've got my try block, and I say, this method is called print line numbers. So I've got file in equals new scanner. And just like before, I'm gonna grab it from a file reader. And I'm gonna give it the file name that I have as a parameter. And similarly, I'll start counting. And here's where I'm gonna use the has next line, which is also an issue that I'll type this and then we'll talk about it for the previous method as well. So while file in has a next line and my counter variable has a ways to go to get to 35. I'm going to print something. So I know how to do file in dot next line. We did that before. But I need to add something here. And then inside the while loop, I also need count plus plus. Okay, so I've got two questions for you. Number one, what do I put in this string? Number two, why do I need this? And why do I also need it in the previous method? Because I want to print lines 1 through 35. Okay, so the string should be, I feel like the string should be the easy part. I want to print the line numbers. So what do I put there?
Or something, you know, this every time you,
Yeah, so if I'm just using println, maybe put counts over there. And then colon and a space. Yeah. This is giving me an error because I haven't inserted the catch. Then I need a finally to say if file in is not null, then in or file in dot close. Then maybe I just print done at the end. Okay, so we've solved the issue of printing the line numbers. Let's just check that that works. So gonna give you a minute, then I'm gonna scroll down.
Wait, it's after the finally brackets.
The done?
Yeah.
Yes, after the finally brackets. Okay, can I scroll down? Okay, I'll come back up. So I'm gonna comment this line out. Again, I did that with command slash or control slash if you're on Windows. What did I call this one? Print line numbers, and I gave it data slash the secret garden.txt. And I think I gave it n, which I need to fix. Did I? I did. Okay, so that means I need to fix this instead of, so what I've done here is I've hard coded 36 of like, I'm only ever going to print 36. But since I've got a parameter here to take care of that, then I can just take out the hard coded data and give it the variable. Okay, let's test this. Great, so it prints the line numbers. Again, we can include the whole idea with starting at a different spot. This is just if we're starting the whole file. Then it prints. So even if it's an extremely boring line where it's just an enter key is blank, it still prints a line number. Okay, my next question. Why do we have this and why do we need it in the previous one as well?
Try and print a line, but there's no line there, it's an error.
Yeah, okay, let's. So I'm gonna comment out this one, I'm gonna uncomment this one. Let's see, how long is the secret garden? I'm gonna scroll all the way to the bottom. Let's say I want to start at 9,910. 9,910. And I want to go for 35 lines. Who thinks this is gonna work great?
You-
Who thinks this is gonna fail spectacularly?
It's gonna throw an out of bounds exception.
It is.
Oh.
Wait, what?
Oh.
Oh, wait, no. That is, yeah. This is the ending bit. So yeah, so it starts at 9,910 and it goes on. But then we got to a no such element exception because we ran out of lines in the file. And so this is what the has next line does for us, where it will only execute the while loop if there's something else there. So this here is the risky bit, where if we try to get the next line, but there's no next line there. So if we add in while file in dot has next line, and we still have our original condition. And if we do this, it should make it so that it only prints what it's got. And if we wanted more, but there's no more there, then we don't do anything.
Have you tried adding a catch statement to read any lines?
Yeah, that's a possibility. What was the exception? No such element?
No such element exception needed. Also, I think. It should be a good solution, so.
Nope, I think it did it for me. If it didn't do it for you, then just do what we did previously and hover over it and then import it from Java util. So I think that should also take care of it, but the idea is we don't want it to end. So let's try just running that with the no such element exception. It still works. Let me try to, I'm gonna cut this and then I'll paste it back in. So I'm gonna cut this and run it. So it does still print the stack trace. But if we didn't want the stack trace to show up at all, then we need the dot has next line. Okay. Any other ideas? Okay, let's make a new method and we're gonna do an additional thing. Yeah. What's the error?
It's like, the start, like,
At the start?
yeah, like, N plus start, for me, it's like,
And the start. Have we defined, do you have start here as a parameter? That would do it.
Other catch, you have that one.
The other catch was no such element exception. So you can have as many catches for things that could go wrong. So one of the things that could go wrong is, let's say I misspelled the secret garden. And then I go and try to do that. Then it gives me my file not found exception. If I didn't have the has next line and it went over, then it gives me the other exception. So yeah, so as many exceptions for things that could go wrong, we can have those. And we could have also chosen to not print the stack trace. We could just print something or throw something. it's up to us. Okay, let's do another method. Which I will call write line nums to file. And I want to make sure that we get two other things today. So I'm just gonna have as input the file name. And I'm gonna hard code like 35 lines, but you can take information from the previous ones. So
What's the point of this new one?
the new point of the new one is currently we have something where we print the line numbers to the console. But I would like to, instead of printing it to the console, I would like to write it to a file. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this, what I just did previously. Actually, I think I will add int n, just so that everything works out. So write line nums to file, takes in the file name and how many lines I want to write. And then it's just the same previous things where we're printing the line numbers to the console. I'm going to change this.
Wait, it's the same as what?
It's currently the same as print line numbers. Because we're printing the line numbers. We're not saving them to a file. So I'm going to use to, and again, there's different types that you can use to print something to a file. There's options for you. I'm going to use something that's called a print writer. I'll call it file out. And I'll initialize it similarly to the scanner. Again, I can hover over it and then import it. We have to import it? Yes. Okay, so once I've declared it and initialized it up here, inside the try, I'm going to actually set it up. So I'm going to say file out is equal to new print writer, similar to scanner. And in here, I'm going to set up a new file. And here's where I say where I want to say it. That can let me do it on multiple lines. Okay, it does. So first off, I need to figure out what's my short file name. But my print writer is going to create a new file and then save anything that I send to file out to that file that lives here. So ideally, it's going to look like in the out folder called output, which I have to create. It's going to be saved to the file called line numbers underscore the secret garden.txt. Or line numbers. That's where we're going. So I've got to import file. Cannot be resolved to a type. Ah. Remove this. Does that get better? No, it doesn't. Okay, I'm gonna import java.io.file. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm going to tell you what I want short f name to be. So the idea is I've got a file called data slash
Oh.
the
What F name?
secret,
What name?
correct. So short f name stands for short file name. So this whole thing, that's the file name that I'm given. Data slash the secret garden.txt. I only want the, like, I don't want the data slash bit. And so to get that, what I've got here is, nope, I'm on the wrong side. I'll use substring where I want the secret garden.txt and everything following. So I only need to know where the T of the secret garden is. And so I'm throwing away the first 4 indices of this file name. So I've got file name.substring 5. And so then the only difference here, the only difference left is instead of printing out to system.out, I change system.out to file out. So file out has a print function, and so I just say, okay, file out, go there. And then once we're done, the only thing left is we open something new, so we have to close it. So down in finally, I'll have if file out is not null, then file out dot close. Right, do you need me to go anywhere else in the code? Yeah. Import java.io.file because for some reason it wasn't importing automatically. Any other questions? Place that I need to go? Yeah.
See the,
This one?
Yeah.
Anything else we need? Okay. I'm gonna try and run this. Do we have predictions? Does anybody think it's gonna work? Great. Perfectly. Amazing. Does anybody think it's not gonna work? No votes all around. Well, it didn't work because I didn't call it in main. So if I do, wait, what's that? Is that it? No. No. There's. Okay, never mind. In VS Code, there's a shortcut to duplicate a line, but alas. Okay, I've called it write line nums to file, and I'm giving it this same exact data. So now if I run this,
HTML.
For me,
okay, so what happened here? So did it work so it worked for you? Did it work for anybody else? No? Okay, the reason why is that we're saving it to output, and I don't know about you, but it doesn't look like I've got an output folder over here. So let's make that. So, oh, well, if you put it back in data, then that works because that's like the folder already exists. So if I right click on the project name, then go new, and then just regular folder, not source folder, just regular folder. So the thing why I wouldn't want to put it in data is that so the secret garden is where we read from, and we're doing something and we're saving the result of our code to a file. And so to me, I think that since we're taking something in, doing something and saving it, I would say that the thing that we're writing should go to an output folder. But if you write something to data and then you need to read from it again, then maybe it makes sense to save it to data. That's a decision. And my folder name is output. What? So you should have a data folder and an output folder. So if I do this, and I refresh, yeah. So it didn't show up at first, so I just need to right click and say refresh.
How do I make the output folder again?
So I would click on the name of the class or on the name of the project, right click, and then go to new, and then all the way down near the bottom, folder. And then you select just the project name, and the folder name is output. Okay, did this not work for anybody? What's the issue?
I'm getting around the right line numbers to find.
Okay, let me walk around. So I think, so you called it with a string and an int. If we go all the
Was
way
it
down,
35 or 36?
you've got two ints as parameters. What's the question?
Was it 35 or 36?
I think 35. You don't- Yeah. Refreshes everything about it for. Oh. I just clicked on it. Yeah.
How do I refresh this? Oh, wait, there it is. There it is.
Refreshing, it doesn't show up. Run it again. Calling right line on auto. Okay, so I think you should have let me try and think of the activities. I think you've got the skills that you need for lab 3. I've got another activity that I think we'll do on Tuesday, which is the Magna Carta. So just a little bit more practice on scanners and reading and writing from into files. So yeah, so we did this. So I've got a Magna Carta activity, but I think I'm going to save this for Tuesday in the interest of moving on to lab 3, where we can actually practice. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording and put you in lab 3 groups, and we'll do that for the rest of the class. I'll record this part. So for lab 3, there's only one JUnit test for this because we're working with scanners. And so the first 2 parts have output matching. So as long as you can compare your output to the output that I give, then you're good. And so I've got like expected output over here. And this is what you should expect, but with like your information. So beginning.java is mostly what we did like in the previous class, where you ask, give me your name, give me your favorite color, and then it prints, here is your name, here's your favorite color. And then the last part is, so initially you don't have to do it in try catch, but then number 8 is put it in try catch. So hopefully that should be easy. Or at least you can rely on the things that we wrote in class. Middle is all about playing with different next methods. So hopefully we've gone over that enough for you to have those skills. There's some implementation and then some questions of why do we have this? What happens if you take it out? And then end is where you're going to read a file. So I've got a file of the National Women's Soccer League statistics for 2023. And I would like to print the information of this team. This is the team's name, and they won this many games, they drew this many games, and they lost this many games. My favorite team, the Kansas City Current, did not do very well in 2023. But yeah, so I think for end.java, the formatting here is good. It's just your job is the matter of reading it from a file, splitting it into pieces, and putting it where it needs to go. So as you work on things, let me know. This is my first time using this lab. It's a new assignment, so let me know if something comes up, and there's a chance that it does. So let's just review how to clone the lab. So back up here at the top, I go to the code link and I hit copy this to clipboard. Copied. Now I go back to Eclipse and I go to the Git perspective. Gotta move zoom out of the way. Git perspective, top right. Click on it. I'm in the Git perspective. Over here in the Git repositories panel, I'm looking for the one with the green arrow to clone the repository. I click on that. Then I select clone URI, hit next. It auto pasted it. Great, that's fine. Just leave that as is. Hit next. Branch selection, that's fine. Here's where we make the change, where I name it Sarah R. CS222 Lab 03. And then the import box is checked, and then I click finish. Does anybody need me to go over that again? Okay, I'm gonna click finish. Okay, so now I've got Sarah R, Lab 03 over here. If I go to over here. There it is. I thought I fixed this error. I guess not. Return team. Okay. So I think there's an error in end, which is, what does that say? Unreachable code. I think the error is going to be fixed once you implement it. So there's like the s.close, which is also unreachable. That's just because you have to change the while true to something else. So I'd have another way of going through each line in the file. And once you change that, then the error should resolve. Okay, so I'm going to actually stop the recording and let you have at it.